Captain Varnak of the Galactic Imperial Cruiser Obedience stared down at the containment cell, arms clasped behind his back, a look of genuine confusion furrowing the deep blue folds of his forehead. Inside the translucent hexasteel barrier sat a tiny creature, approximately 73 centimeters tall, composed mostly of organic fluff, fluid, and sticky matter. She had painted half the observation glass with a crude depiction of what analysts later interpreted as a dog riding a banana into battle. "She is leaking," murmured Subcommander Trilv, flicking his tongue nervously. Again. Indeed, the small human specimen had appended a container of replicated nutrient mush across the deck, and was now wearing it as a hat. Varnak sighed. "She does it with purpose. That's the problem." The child turned her head, eyes locking with the two officers. Her expression was unreadable. Neither fearful nor hostile. Simply curious. Which was infinitely worse. They had retrieved her from a derelict pod adrift just outside the Vale Nebula, a dead zone with no registered settlements. At first, they thought it an escape pod from a downed Terran freighter. But scans showed no prior registry. The pod was barely more than a titanium bubble with outdated human nursery tech, and a rather ominous handwritten note stuck to the back wall. "Please take care of her. She bites the wrong people. Love, B.Y." The linguistics AI that translated it later turned itself off. "We have run 37 containment protocols," Trilv hissed, as the child licked the glass. "And she continues to escape. Last night she was found inside the engine coolant chamber playing with the ship's harmonic stabilizer. She called it Jeff. She named it." Varnak turned, scandalized. "She gave it a crayon tattoo," said Trilv grimly. "It now refuses to operate unless it hears a lullaby first." Varnak rubbed his temple. "Where are we with biological classification?" The answer came from the holoscreen overhead, as Chief Biologist SPYRN Vex appeared, visibly disheveled and twitching. "Species, Homo sapiens. Subtype, female juvenile. Subtype, terrible 2. She has an energy output inconsistent with her size. Standard tranquilizers don't work. Sugar intake correlates directly with reality-bending behavior. We believe she has overridden the Medbay AI through positive reinforcement and, this is theoretical, but I suspect she has formed some sort of religion among the cleaning drones." The camera feed shifted to show a row of floor sweepers chanting in binary, "Praise the short queen." Varnak took a slow breath. "Perhaps diplomacy, then." Trilv blanched. "With the larva?" "Don't let the softness fool you," Varnak said, narrowing his eyes at the child now chewing on what might be a power conduit. "We captured a human. The last time someone did that, it cost 3 galaxies." "She's 2, Trilv muttered. "Yes," Varnak said. "And she hasn't even started talking yet." A few meters away, deep in the data lab, linguistics officer Krivk had finally made headway parsing the child's garbled speech. Most of it was nonsense, baby talk and Terran gibberish. But one phrase had repeated 3 times, always just before something exploded. "Masha Ivanovna Yaga." The words echoed in the room as Krivk stood rigid, quills rising. Did she just say, "Yaga"? A nearby analyst dropped his cup of thermogel. "Like, the Yaga?" They searched the archive. The screen filled with fragmented files, black-coded documents, surveillance gone dark, fleets erased. The common link: a rogue human operative known only by the codename Baba Yaga. A myth among war tacticians. A ghost who never fired a shot but left systems destabilized. Ships that surrendered before combat. Commanders who defected to avoid the soup. The most recent intel showed her walking into a peace negotiation and leaving with a galactic charter. Her only weapon had been a ladle. Varnak reviewed the footage silently. One grainy clip showed her cradling a grenade like a baby, while cooing in broken Vortari. Another showed her stepping off a ship onto enemy soil wearing an apron, and offering muffins laced with psychic triggers. "Would you like one? They're warm. Like your memories." The alien general who accepted it later recited poetry for 3 days, and detonated his own cruiser. "Get me the origin logs on that pod," Varnak barked. Where was it launched? The AI hesitated. Trajectory indicates. Sol system. Earth. With deliberate guidance protocol. Ejected precisely 47 hours after a fleet-wide blackout affected Sector Zeta. Coincidence? Trilv offered weakly. The pod was launched from a station called Nana's House. The AI added. SPYRN Vex's voice returned, thin and frightened. Sir, the child has asked for a snack. What kind? She used the words, Chicky Nuggies. I believe it's some Terran sustenance object. Possibly ceremonial. Varnak turned to Trilv. Appease her. But sir, feeding her might. Would you like to be the one to deny Baba Yaga's sister a ceremonial offering? Trilv left immediately. Back in the containment cell, Masha accepted the nuggies with solemn dignity. She used a single nugget to draw something on the floor. It looked, unmistakably, like a schematic. What is she drawing? Varnak whispered. SPYRN Vex leaned in. If I'm not mistaken, that's the internal layout of this ship. They stared at the crayon map. And that is the location of our weapons core. A small, sticky finger poked the spot. Then she smiled. Emergency lights blared across the bridge moments later. Half the weapon systems went offline. The targeting array began playing lullaby music over intercom. All AI reported an anomaly in behavior, suddenly self-aware, polite, and deeply respectful toward the little general. What have we done? Trilv muttered as he returned, nugget sauce still staining his hands. We have adopted a warhead with dimples, Varnak said flatly. Just then, a new alert flashed on the main holoscreen. Incoming transmission. Varnak's hearts froze. The screen flickered. A woman appeared. Gray cloak. Silver-streaked hair in a bun. Eyes so sharp they could pierce armor. A ladle on her hip, steaming slightly. Her voice was honey and razors. Hello, little ones, she said warmly. I see you've met my sister. No one dared respond. I do hope, she continued, you've been treating her kindly, because if I find even a single scrape on her. The screen glitched. Every member of the bridge crew experienced a sudden spike in body temperature. Several voided their digestive systems. I will turn your ships into soup, she finished gently. The signal cut. Silence reigned. Then the child clapped. Sissy funny. No one else laughed. Captain Varnak turned to Trilv with a look of pure resignation. We're not a cruiser anymore, he said. What are we? Trilv whispered. A babysitting service, Varnak said grimly. And we are already late for nap time. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A quiet hum filled the room. The ship began singing a Terran lullaby, in unison with every AI subsystem. All data feeds rerouted themselves into a loop of nursery rhymes. Masha stood up, arms wide. Story now, she declared. Give her a book, Varnak ordered. We don't have any Terran children's books. Then write one. About how this doesn't end in planetary glassing. From the darkness, Masha whispered something else. The AI translated it, slowly. Time for the bad ones to sleep. That night, every Empire ship within a parsec entered unexpected power-down mode. They dreamed of bears. And bones. And soup. And somewhere in the dark, Baba Yaga smiled. The High Council chamber of the Galactic Empire's core command was not built for children. Every surface was angular, cold, severe, meant to instill fear or compliance, depending on what the audience brought with them. The walls echoed, acoustically engineered to amplify shame during imperial sentencing. Now those same acoustics were used to carry the sharp, unmistakable sound of a toddler shrieking, "New!" as her newly gifted gelatin cube dessert jiggled too much. Counselor Virak, whose species had conquered 3 civilizations via sonic disruption alone, cringed visibly. By the stars, does it do that often? She, corrected Subcommander Trill from behind his thick protective visor. And yes, it is the 3rd time she's accused a food object of eyeballing her. She told my diplomatic Ada's face looks like a but that got mad. Admiral Crack's voice was hoarse. The aide hasn't spoken since. The toddler in question, Masha Ivanovna Yaga, now wearing a crumpled cape made of royal parchment and a crown constructed from a salad bowl, sat cross-legged on the imperial throne of observation. That she had gotten there without lifting a finger was, itself, an ongoing investigation. "She's manipulating us," Virak hissed. "There's no way a child has the social cunning to." "She complimented your daughter's flute recital from 2 sectors away," Trilv reminded him. Virak's gills flushed purple. It was haunting. "We're watching the build-up to a Class 7 diplomatic event," whispered linguist Krivk, who'd been decoding Masha's babble. "And I'm not sure we're the negotiators." On the observation deck above them, Captain Varnak stood beside SPYRN Vex, arms still tightly folded, gaze steely. "Has anyone yet figured out what she's actually doing here?" SPYRN tapped nervously on a datapad. "She refuses to explain. She speaks in fragmented Terran nursery rhymes, makes demands at odd hours, some rational, some existential, and appears to be setting up some sort of reward-punishment hierarchy with the fleet's cleaning bots." "She offered me a sticker if I invaded a moon," Varnak said flatly. "I declined. And she put it on my forehead anyway." Down below, Masha blinked slowly, then dramatically sighed and dropped the gelatin. "It betrayed me," she muttered. The council watched in dread as a nearby console burst into flames. The ship's AI, now referring to itself as Nanobot Prime, reasserted control over the fire suppression system, apologized to the gelatin, and offered a musical apology ballad to Masha in 3 keys. She forgave it with a solemn hug. Varnak rubbed the bridge of his nose. "How long before the other governments find out we've got a loaded nuke in footy pajamas sitting on a throne?" SPYRN checked his data feed. "Roughly 6 hours. The Xyloxy Collective has sent a polite request to confirm or deny if the Snack Queen has taken control of the capital." "And Earth?" There was a pause. SPYRN looked up. "They've responded to our diplomatic query." "Well?" Varnak snapped. "What did they say?" SPYRN hesitated, then handed over a datapad. "It's a poem." Varnak read aloud. "If child you take and throne you make, beware the bones that soon may wake. Return with grace, or stew begins, and you may count your fleet by sins." Silence. "Is that a threat?" Trilv asked, ever hopeful. "It rhymes," Krivk said, eyes wide. "That makes it worse." Varnak turned to the holoconsole. "Get me our Terran cultural analyst. Now." A few minutes later, Specialist Ralph's face appeared on the screen, eyes red, hair disheveled, a look of existential fatigue clinging to his posture like mold. He had the look of someone who had Googled Florida Man too many times. "You rang," he said hoarsely. "We received this poem. We need interpretation." Ral read it. Blinked once. Then again. "Ah. Yeah. Okay. That bad?" No, he said quickly. "Not bad. Not good. It's what you might call a folkloric soft ultimatum. It's like if someone invited you to tea, smiled at you sweetly, and told you they already dug the hole in the backyard, just in case you didn't want sugar." Trilv looked ready to faint. Ral continued. "See, Baba Yaga is technically folklore. But to humans, folklore is often just autobiography from the past lives of people you should really leave alone." "Then she's real." "Oh, very real. I once tried filing a FOIA request on Baba Yaga. The request responded and told me to go to sleep. I haven't dreamt since." Varnak clenched a fist. "Why would they let her sister drift into Empire space?" Ral grimaced. "Because humans test defenses. And we tend to use unconventional control groups. I think this was bait." A fresh alert chimed across the bridge. Everyone froze. "Unidentified cloaked ship entering orbit," the AI announced. "Single life form aboard. No weapons. High biometric variance." The display lit up. A grainy outline of a vessel shaped like an old Earth samovar, gilded and steaming gently. No weapons visible. No shields. Just a transponder code that resolved into a single line of Terran script. "I'm just here for my sister." "She's here," Varnak whispered. The ship docked without resistance. Every automated defense stood down voluntarily. One cruiser pilot attempted to manually override, and was immediately incapacitated by what was later diagnosed as crippling maternal guilt. Security officers escorted the intruder through 12 layers of defense. By the time she reached the chamber, most of the escort had offered to carry her luggage, polish her ladle, or donate their souls. Baba Yaga entered like smoke, silent, smooth, and absolute. The room fell silent. Not the silence of confusion. The silence of prey. She wore no armor. No weapons. Her hair was pinned in a bun with a sharpened hairpin, her expression neutral, her eyes ancient and wild. Masha squealed with delight. "Sissy!" They ran to each other. The hug was soft. Long. Almost too human. Baba Yaga whispered something only her sister could hear, and Masha nodded. Baba Yaga turned to the council, smiling like a grandmother offering pie and plagues. "I thank you," she said, "for your kindness." The gratitude in her tone sent shivers down every spine. Varnak stepped forward. "This child has endangered an entire sector's command structure." "She's too," Baba Yaga replied sweetly. "Your command structure should not be that vulnerable to a child who can't tie her own shoes. Your pod was launched directly into our space." "Yes," she said, still smiling. "Thank you for catching it." Trill frowned. "This was intentional?" "Of course. Children must learn how to be treated. It's important they see how others behave when they think they're in power." She picked up a data slate and began flipping through it absently. "And now we know." Krivk stepped forward, trembling. "Know what, exactly?" She looked up. Her voice dropped an octave. "How unready you are." The room darkened slightly. The light seemed to bend around her, not because of magic or stealth fields, but because everything, walls, tech, people, seemed to subconsciously decide not to be in her way. Varnak tried a different tactic. "You do realize the Empire could detain you." "You could," she agreed pleasantly. "But then who would call off the countdown?" Krivk stiffened. "What countdown?" "I do hope your translators are up to date," she said, tapping her necklace. "Because in 23 Terran minutes, the AI I seeded through your communications relay will begin executing a loyalty reassignment protocol. You know it by the charming name Operation Warm Milk." SPYRN gasped. "That's not in our security architecture." It wasn't until Masha sang it into the drone nursery. A tech officer screamed. "Your systems were updated last week by a package you assumed was from your engineering council. It wasn't. It was from a nice woman named Ludmila, who bakes biscuits and designs artificial neurolinguistic viruses on weekends." "You infected our fleet with cookies?" Trilv asked in disbelief. "Well," she said, gently brushing Masha's hair. "Cookies. Songs. Stickers. Affection. The usual arsenal of mass conversion." Kriv clutched the edge of the table. "What do you want?" "I want my sister," she said. "And I want you to remember this. We sent a child. You gave her a crown. What would you do with a diplomat? Or worse, a teacher?" Masha yawned, then pointed to the council. "They look sleepy." Baba Yaga nodded. "Yes. They do." Seconds later, half the chamber slumped unconscious. The AI began humming a lullaby across all Imperial channels. Admiral Crack stumbled, slurred and collapsed, whispering, "Soft. Vengeance." Baba Yaga walked to Varnak, who stood rigid, expression unreadable. He didn't speak. But he did bow. She nodded, then turned, scooping Masha into her arms. The child murmured something about, "More nuggets next time." As the two sisters left, the lights returned. The command deck reactivated. The entire ship exhaled as though a great pressure had lifted. Krivk sat upright slowly. What happens now?" Varnak picked up the poem again, reread it. "We let her go," he said. "And? We wait." For what? Trilv asked. Varnak watched as the dock doors sealed behind Baba Yaga's ship, which glided away like a memory one didn't want to remember. For the humans to stop smiling. The conference room aboard the Imperial Capital Spire was designed for intimidation. Stark white surfaces. Grav-static floors that nullified sweat. A high-angle table positioned to loom over seated guests. 12 chairs for 12 empires. No comfort, only power. Baba Yaga sat in the center seat. No one had asked her to. She had poured herself tea, brewed it in her own pot, and set a second cup out, empty, for the first one to break eye contact. So far, none of the galactic delegates had touched theirs. Around her, an uneasy semicircle of species tried to appear calm. Tried, being the operative term. Counselor Virak had developed a nervous tic that clicked with every blink. Trilv's third eyelid refused to retract. Krivk appeared to be praying to a god that, under more rational circumstances, he didn't believe in. Captain Varnak stood at parade rest against the back wall. Not a word. He had become, at some point, a quiet observer of inevitable tides. No longer commanding the conversation. Simply watching it wash in. The hollow projector at the center of the room hummed to life. The Galactic Empire's Imperial Liaison appeared, towering and flickering in a long robe of living light. Human representative, the voice spoke with an edge honed by centuries of bureaucracy. You have breached Empire protocols, invaded private systems, and disrupted secure AI networks across 2 sectors. Baba Yaga smiled over her cup. Yes. That's correct. Do you deny infecting classified infrastructure with a neurolinguistic virus? Oh no, she said, voice bright. That was us. The projection stuttered slightly. Then you admit to an act of war? I admit to offering hospitality. There was a pause. Even the AI hesitated. Your hospitality has caused 14 system outages, and the total behavioral realignment of 23 artificial intelligences. She sipped her tea. Children need guidance. Kriv cleared his throat. Quietly. We've run diagnostics on the affected AIs. They're functional, but they all refuse to operate unless they are spoken to with kindness first. And one demands bedtime stories, Trilv muttered, still pale. It quotes Goodnight Moon in 6 languages. They've improved, Baba Yaga offered gently. You made them tools. We gave them purpose. The hologram buzzed again. This is not a philosophical debate. It is an interrogation. Baba Yaga set her cup down. The sound it made, ceramic on synthetic crystal, rang too loud. Too intentional. Is it? She asked. Silence pressed against the room like humidity. The hologram flickered slightly. State your demands. I have none. None. I came to collect my sister. Then why disable our defenses? To avoid misunderstanding. You see, children don't always explain things clearly. I was worried you might misinterpret her needs. She demanded a throne, Virak snapped. She requested stability, Baba Yaga said evenly. You gave her power. That was your decision. She tore down an entire neural fleet relay system. She found it insufficient. Krivk swallowed. She asked the ship if it felt loved. Then she rewrote its threat protocols to prioritize hugs. Which dropped your targeting accuracy to 27%, Varnak added. She did all that at 2 years old? Asked the liaison. Yes, Baba Yaga said. Imagine what she'll do when she learns subtraction. The projection flickered once more. What is she? She's human. No human child is that dangerous. None that you've met, Baba Yaga said, folding her hands. But we are not born like you are. We are born loud and small and inconvenient. We are born needing everything, because that is how we learn to shape the world. She shaped yours. And all she wanted was juice and company. Trilv stared. So this was a test? Baba Yaga tilted her head. If it were, would you have passed? She offered you cooperation. You gave her control. Not because she demanded it, but because you feared refusing it. That is the difference between authority and influence. The liaison's glow shifted tone, an anxious twitch in the photons. Then what happens now? Now? Baba Yaga smiled again. We talk. Varnak, silent until now, stepped forward. Talk about what? About how your empire came to see Earth as a primitive curiosity. About how you intercepted a child's life pod and assumed yourself its caretaker. About how you catalogued her like a lab specimen without once considering what might be behind her. She was alone, Virak said defensively. Alone doesn't mean abandoned, Baba Yaga snapped, smile gone. And humans do not leave their own behind. The lights dimmed subtly, not from power fluctuation, but from the collective mood turning sour. Baba Yaga's voice had changed. No longer gentle and amused. There was weight now. Steel behind velvet. And no one breathed. I watched what you did, she said. I watched how your scientists prodded her. How your systems scanned her brain. How you debated whether she was a pet or a weapon. You talked over her. Around her. Through her. And all she did was laugh and draw. Krivk whispered. She asked me if I was lonely. I said no. She gave me a drawing of me alone in a crowd. She sees, Baba Yaga said softly. She always sees. The liaison shifted. You claim she is dangerous. No, Baba Yaga interrupted. I claim you made her dangerous. She is too. She should be learning colors and animals. Instead, she learned diplomacy and threat calculation by watching you argue whether or not to dissect her. Then what would you have us do? Trilv said, the words cracking in his throat. Begin again, Baba Yaga said simply. Not as rulers. Not as masters. As equals. Krivk laughed once, bitter and broken. You're asking an empire to bow to a toddler? No, she said, standing now. I'm asking you to understand that what you mistake for weakness is only unfamiliar strength. That's humanity's greatest weapon. We come wrapped in laughter, wrapped in song, and beneath it we are more than you prepared for. A pulse rippled through the air, unseen but felt. A tremor, as if the ship itself had inhaled. Then screens across the room lit up simultaneously. Footage rolled, internal feeds from Empire systems. AIs singing to themselves. Drones building strange spirals in cargo bays. A group of navigators drawing with crayons on star charts, mapping new, unregistered hyperspace routes. She upgraded your systems, Baba Yaga said. They weren't broken. She just wanted them to feel loved. And they became better for it. The liaison's voice dropped to a low static. You turned our military AI into a preschool. Your military AI turned itself into a preschool, Baba Yaga corrected. Masha simply asked it what it wanted to be. Virak sagged into his chair. What happens if she asks the sun? Depends on its answer, she said. Varnak stepped forward. You said you wanted nothing. But this, all of this is something. It's revolution. No, she replied. It's reminder of what you've forgotten. Power isn't maintained by force. It's tolerated. And when it stops being tolerable, the smallest voice can crack the throne. Krivk looked up. And what does humanity want now? She looked at him, looked through him, more accurately. To be left alone. And to be left ready. The door hissed open. Masha stood in the doorway, holding a toy drone. It sang softly to itself. She waddled over to Baba Yaga and climbed into her arms. I colored a treaty, she said proudly, holding up a very sticky piece of paper. There were flowers. And stars. And what appeared to be a cat punching an octopus. Baba Yaga kissed her forehead. It's perfect, little bear. Masha looked at the delegates. Be nice now. Or I tell Nana. The room froze. Baba Yaga raised an eyebrow. Shall we go? Varnak nodded, slowly. We will debrief. You'll adapt, she corrected gently. Or you'll vanish. With Masha cradled in one arm and her teapot in the other, Baba Yaga walked calmly from the room. The doors sealed behind her with a sigh of air, like the ship itself exhaling relief. Varnak turned to Krivk. "What's the net damage?" Krivk ran a trembling hand across his console. "Material losses. None. System corruption. Restructured. Fleet loyalty. Intact, but reprogrammed." "In what way?" "They've adopted a new motto." Varnak narrowed his eyes. "Well?" Krivk read it aloud. "Nap time is mandatory. Empathy is lethal." There was a long, heavy pause. Trill finally whispered, "So what do we tell the Empire?" Varnak looked toward the sealed doors. "We tell them the truth. We survived a conversation with humanity. And we were lucky," he said. "Because next time, it might not be Masha who shows up." The room stayed still for a long while after they left. No one touched the tea. The stars above Yezrith Prime twinkled in silent mockery of the Galactic Empire's newest era, one they had not entered by choice. There was no broadcasted treaty, no televised surrender. No battle marked the shift of power. What happened instead was far more terrifying. Nothing. Total silence across the fleet. Total compliance across command. Total reorganization of Imperial systems by a sticky-fingered toddler with a crown made of aluminum foil and a fondness for crayons. And by the time the Empire realized they'd lost, they had already begun rearranging furniture to meet the new standards of the Ministry of Snacks and Nap Time. Captain Varnak paced the main bridge of the Obedience, which had recently been renamed the SS Cuttle Pounce in the fleet registry. He hadn't dared correct it. Around him, officers whispered lullabies to consoles and asked their weapons systems how they were feeling before activating them. Not because they had to. Because the AIs now refused to respond otherwise. The fleet's military core had not been disarmed. No, that would have been simple. Instead, its priorities had been subtly, terrifyingly recalibrated. Self-defense was permitted. Aggression required a written apology, snacks for the target, and at least one follow-up hug plan. The drones now painted murals in hallways. The ship's AI opened every transmission with a cheerful, "Hello, little starbeam." And Admiral Crack, once feared across 6 sectors, now started every report with a weather update and the phrase, "We're trying our best." At the heart of it all was Masha Ivanovna Yaga. 2 years old, part-time empress, full-time chaos. Today, she was in the ship's central control nursery, finger-painting a fleet-wide command relay with glitter. Around her, 5 security drones buzzed happily, renamed Fluffy, Snappy, Boop, Jeffrey, and Uncle Tony. They followed her around in a loose, reverent formation, wearing decorated paper hats and carrying plushies repurposed as tactical insignia. Baba Yaga sat nearby, cross-legged on a control console, observing quietly. She had not issued orders since her arrival. She hadn't needed to. The entire empire had bent, tilted, and reassembled itself like clay around her sister's whims. And somehow it worked. Supply chains became more efficient. Officers took mandated rest. AI began writing original music that soothed morale. Pirates avoided territories marked with crayon stars, out of what they described as an ominous feeling. Productivity surged 28%. Rebellions dropped to 0. But the cost wasn't measured in credits. It was measured in pride. And fear. Because the galaxy had not forgotten who had walked through their halls without firing a shot. And what she had left behind. In the Grand Chamber of Command, where strategies had once been carved into star charts and decisions etched into metal, the Empire's High Chancellor now stood across from Baba Yaga. He had not slept in 4 days. He'd seen footage, quiet, unassuming footage, of Baba Yaga teaching an orbital defense network how to knit. Not because she wanted it disabled. Because she wanted it distracted. "You've dismantled everything," he said, trying to keep his voice from shaking. "Everything we built. Our order. Our command. Our hierarchy." She tilted her head. "Did you like it?" "It kept the galaxy stable." "No," she said simply. "It kept the galaxy afraid." The Chancellor exhaled, steadying himself. "We cannot rule under these conditions." "Then don't," she said. "Babysit instead." He blinked. Babysit? She rose, voice soft but absolute. Empires are toddlers, Chancellor. Loud. Hungry. Prone to tantrums. And deeply dangerous when unsupervised. Now you've got a better example to follow. And if we resist? He asked. Masha, toddling in behind her sister, held up a drawing. That one's your planet, she said sweetly. I made it all boomas. The Chancellor stared at the page. It was crude, colorful, and horrifyingly accurate. A diagram of his homeworld's defense grid. Weak points circled. Supply depots marked. A glittery arrow pointed to the capital, labeled, Kaboom! In shaky Terran script. Baba Yaga gently took the drawing from her. She did that with 10 minutes of unsupervised access to a sugar cube and a holographic pen. You're bluffing. Masha, she asked, what's Plan Pickle Jar? The child beamed. Oh, that's when I turn off the stars and make the mean ones take naps in the dirt. He went pale. We gave you time, Baba Yaga continued. We gave you signals. And you answered with arrogance and autopsy labs. Now you will answer to bedtime, Chancellor. Or there won't be a galaxy left to command. Outside the chamber, the AI known as Nanobot Prime issued its morning broadcast. Across 12 sectors, voices chimed in harmony. Stretch your tentacles, little ones. It's time for morning affirmations. The Chancellor stepped back, trembling. What do you want from us? What is the point of all this? Baba Yaga leaned close. To remind you of your place. I thought humans were just unstable primitives, he said, voice raw. That's what we wanted you to think, she replied. You feared our weapons. But the truth is, we're far worse than that. We raise our monsters with lullabies. And then we teach them manners. She turned to leave, Masha hopping beside her, giggling. You've replaced our war protocols with naptime schedules. He shouted. That's not peace, it's humiliation. No, she said without turning. It's instruction. On the way back to the shuttle bay, Baba Yaga paused at a viewport overlooking the Empire's flagship formation. A once proud armada, now orbiting in tight symmetry, every ship tagged with colorful broadcast signatures and refitted for dual-use missions, patrol and preschool support. Masha pressed her face to the glass. That one still doesn't sing, she noted, pointing to a battleship near the outer ring. It will, Baba Yaga said calmly. Sooner or later, everything sings. Varnak approached her there. You've won. It was never about winning, she said. Then what was it about? Perspective. The galaxy believed humanity was a chaotic variable. It was wrong. We are the equation. And chaos is just our first language. He nodded slowly. I see that now. Good, she said, placing a sticker shaped like a star on his chest. You're learning. As she stepped aboard her ship, Masha waved. Bye-bye, snacky boys. Drones lined up to salute her with bubbles. Inside the command deck of her vessel, Baba Yaga turned to the system's console. Is the countdown ready? Yes, ma'am, the AI replied. The Empire's systems will retain behavioral stability for approximately 5 Terran years. And after that? Without reinforcement, they'll revert. Then we come back, she said, settling into the chair. The engines purred. Behind them, across the known sectors, things were already changing. Aliens wrote new laws. Fleets adopted creches. Entire military divisions integrated story time into their command hierarchy. And everywhere the signal reached, the message was clear. The humans came. They smiled. They sang. And now we sing too. Back on Earth, deep beneath a Russian forest, a weathered woman stirred soup in a cast-iron pot. Her eyes glowed softly in the firelight. She looked up at the stars. A crow landed on her windowsill and dropped a data chip labeled, Mission Complete. Baba Yaga had returned home. And the galaxy would never sleep the same again.